Big news out of Seattle this weekend as the Seattle Mariners announced their contract extension with Luis Castillo, also known as La Piedra, which means the rock. This extension coming on the heels of Julio Rodriguez's contract extension a few weeks back. The announcement by Jerry Dipoto, he said that Luis has been one of the top pitchers in the MLB over the past 6 seasons. He is a dynamic power pitcher in the prime of his career with a track record of consistency. Bringing him to Seattle represented a key moment in our ongoing efforts to build a championship roster. Similarly, this deal illustrates our continued commitment to both the present and future of this team. And this move for Castillo really does show that. If we look back to the trade, the Seattle Mariners gave up minor leaguers Noel V. Marte, Levi Stout, Edwin Arroyo, and Andrew Moore, with Noel V. Marte and Edwin Arroyo being arguably the Mariners' top 2 prospects in their system at the time. And some Mariner fans have been complaining that we overpaid for Castillo. If you think back to the trade deadline, Luis Castillo was the number 1 pitcher available. Second was Frankie Montas, who now is on the IL with shoulder injury. And Castillo had 1 more year of club control left on his contract before he would become a free agent. Even though you're only guaranteed 1.5 years of Castillo through that trade, I think it was hands down a great trade. Look at how well he's pitched for the Mariners so far. And at the end of the day, prospects really only provide value once they've performed on the major league level. So that's why you build up your farm system so that you can move those pieces around to get pieces that help your major league team win games. And now getting into the extension, Luis agreed to a 5-year, $108 million contract extension with a 6-year vesting option that can take it up to $133 million. And hey, just saying, this deal is pretty much identical to the one I said they should sign him to when I made that video 9 days ago. So this one's free of charge, Jerry. Over the first 5 years of the contract, that averages $21.6 million per year. And Castillo said on the agreement, he said, "I feel great. Every baseball player wants to have a dream like this become a reality. I'm happy I was able to accomplish this with the Mariners, and I want to thank everybody in the organization for treating me so well. I think he's been a great fit since he came over from Cincinnati, and he fits exactly into what the Mariners are looking to do long term." So Castillo is guaranteed 5 years with his contract, and from 2023 through 2025, it's a full no trade clause. He can't be traded to any teams. And then in order for this contract to become a 6-year deal, if Castillo were to pitch at least 180 innings in 2027, then this would trigger the 6-year vesting option for 2028, which is a $25 million option. And then also on the flip side of this, if Luis Castillo misses 130 plus days in anywhere from 2025 through 2027 due to UCL injury, so specifically Tommy John, then this would become a $5 million team option for 2028 instead of that $25 million that he has potentially. This contract starts in 2023, which takes up his last year of arbitration, runs through 2027 for those first 5 years. That 6-year option would be 2028, and then he'll become a free agent at age 36 in 2029. Jerry's been getting creative with these contract extensions as of recently. If you think back to Julio's extension, I'll put a link right here explaining his full extension, but it's filled with performance incentives, winning multiple MVPs in order to reach the full extent of his contract. But I think this is the first pitcher deal I've heard of that essentially provides some insurance for the team in case that pitcher were to have to get Tommy John. But I like the thought behind it, potentially extending the contract 1 additional year, either in the team's favor if Luis were to get hurt, get Tommy John, then there's that cheap 5-year option in 2028, or in Castillo's favor, if he does perform to his true potential and stays healthy the entire time, then he gets $25 million for that 6th year. Castillo has been great since joining the Mariners. He's pitched 54 innings so far. He has been roughed up a couple times recently against the A's and the Royals, who aren't necessarily that great of teams, but overall, he currently has a 2.83 ERA since being a Mariner. Again, 54 innings. He has 64 strikeouts and 13 walks over those innings. He has a K per 9 of 10.7 and a walks per 9 of 2.2, which comes out to a strikeout to walk ratio of 4.92, which is better than any other time in his career. And let's just think for a second of a rotation of Luis Castillo, Robbie Ray, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, and either Emerson Hancock or a number of other top pitching prospects in the Mariners system. That rotation for the foreseeable future is a top 5 rotation, hands down, if not better, potentially the best. Now moving into the wildcard standings, after a wild loss to the Royals today, fortunately the Orioles also lost to the Astros, so the distance between both teams remains at 4 games. The Mariners are also a half game behind the Tampa Bay Rays for that second wildcard spot, 2.5 games behind the Toronto Blue Jays for that first wildcard spot. And now with their upcoming schedule this week, they are headed back home for 3 games against the Rangers. Then they have a 3-game set against the A's at home, followed by 4 games against the Tigers to finish out the year. This final week and a half of games will have a lot to do with determining how the playoff picture will look, as the number 1 wildcard in both divisions will have a home series against that number 2 wildcard spot. And if the postseason were to start today, since the Mariners have the 3rd wildcard spot, they would be going to Cleveland to play the Guardians for a 3-game wildcard series. So fingers crossed, if the Mariners could somehow jump up and take the number 1 overall wildcard spot, then they would have a home series in Seattle for that wildcard series. The Orioles have a very difficult schedule to finish out the year. They have 4 games at Fenway Park against the Red Sox. They have 3 games at Yankee Stadium against the Yankees, and then they finish with 3 home games against the Toronto Blue Jays. It'll surely be a wild but fun end to the year. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more updates. And if you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, give it a share, and we'll see you next time.
All right, guys, goodbyes only. Don't forget it.